So this is our second episode in December, and we're doing a sort of metaphorical Advent candle kind of thing. And this week I'd like to focus on peace. So light the metaphorical candle now. And I thought we could go through a little exercise called Focus, Flow, and Freedom that I am hoping to use with my reflective journaling clients. And here is the little blurb that I wrote and put at the top of the page. It's been said that success is, far from being about money, admirers, and rank, is about feeling focused, in a state of flow, and free. Let's assume that this is true and address each of these in turn. Running each desired state through the filter of the same set of questions. And I noticed a little typo, so I fixed it. Let's start with focus. The first prompt is this. Take a balcony level view of how focus exists in your life, as if you are a scientist observing a situation. Describe what you see when you take this balcony level view of how you focus best and how you have been doing with focus lately. What I see is that I focus best when I'm inspired by something. It's been said that I'm highly suggestible. So I think one of the critical keys is, how do I suggest to myself what I ought to be doing? For example, watching a really cool YouTube video, or reading an attractive book, or getting an idea from a friend in conversation. These are all things that will just propel me into passionate action. Like, the world fades away and I'm totally zoomed in, and I get really cranky if somebody interrupts me. I just want to see how it works. And how have I been doing with focus lately? I just went through this massive blitz of activity with reflective journaling and some back to school stuff for my son, because although I'll be airing this podcast in December, I'm recording this podcast on September 8th. So because of back to school, all of my habit anchors have been shifted around for waking up at different times. The morning routine is different. My son is gone for some hours of the day, but then he returns at different hours, and I realized that my whole system for being productive, which I had sort of shaped over the summer, fell apart. Just because the anchors were gone, and I didn't see it coming. It kind of knocked me off my game a bit. So that's how I've been doing with focus lately, and I've part of that shift in my schedule and the loss of the anchors is that I stopped listening to all of these audiobooks about management and coaching and psychology and business success, and that caused me to promptly fall right off of my passionate action train when it came to reflective journaling. So you can see that there's this sort of rippling effect outward from, oh, the anchors went away, to, oh, now I'm not as motivated. And all because of a schedule change. The next prompt is, which of your behaviors are contributing to excellent levels of focus? I gotta be real with you. Over the last 4 days, I have watched all 4 movies in the Hunger Games series. I've been watching a lot of the Great British Baking Show. So I thought, I've had excellent focus while watching TV shows and movies. I've been kind of in this fallow period. I'm tired. I think I'm recovering from all that activity. So, okay. I would say, I got really, really motivated the other day when I had a meeting. And I knew I wanted to be an organizing force in that meeting. And so I got into a real state of preparation, and I gathered all my materials, and I showed up, and I was on point, and I was just helping these other people shape their thoughts and their actions. So I think the behavior there was reacting to a deadline and knowing that people were going to be accountable to me. That's not a behavior. That's really more of a situation. I suppose my behavior was wanting to be of service and just kind of showing up for them and being available and having my head on right. So that's a good behavior, is showing up to be of service. Yeah, my focus actually lately has been shot, so I'll say that's been a good behavior. The next prompt is, what are you not doing that contributes to that excellence? Okay. One thing that comes up is that when I show up to be of service, it's not about me. So I don't get all caught up in the outcomes. I don't get caught up in how people are going to think of me. I don't worry about having my ideas accepted. I just show up and try to be a support for them, to let their ideas take center stage and focus on how I can be helpful and how I can help them think clearly and creatively, and with a sense that good things are possible. Okay, the next prompt is, let's flip that around. Which of your behaviors are contributing to problems with your focus? I am not going to apologize for watching the British baking show or the Hunger Games movies. I think that was actually a good thing for me to do because I needed to rest and recharge my batteries. So I stand by that behavior. I haven't been moving my body nearly as often since the school year started, and I haven't been eating my beloved bento boxes. I've been eating a lot of rich food. Like today I literally made a pie out of sugar. I mixed 4 cups of granulated sugar with a stick of butter and some vanilla and an egg or 2, and put it in the oven and baked it for 45 minutes. That's the kind of rich food I'm talking about. And the way I see it is the best way for me to feel productive is to make sure that I have energy to do the work. And you can only get energy by eating food that provides healthy fuel. So the occasional indulgence is totally fine with me. In fact, whenever I want an indulgence, I will go for it because I'm trying to be peaceful with my food. But perhaps an entire sugar pie was a bit too far. So failing to eat in a nourishing way, failing to move. I've been a little bit sloppy about getting out of bed in the morning. And really the big thing was not having anchors on which to hang my habits. And it says, and which behaviors are you not doing, and how does that non-action contribute to problems with your focus? I haven't been creating new anchors and deciding how I'm going to suggest to myself what to do next. So I suppose one thing I could do is start saying, well, with my schedule the way it is now, where are my anchor points, and what do I want to inspire myself to do, and how do I inspire myself to do that? That's huge. I want to remember that. I'm going to write that down on the back of this envelope because that seems incredibly cogent. So what was it? What did I say? I said find anchors, decide what I want to suggest myself to do, what I want to suggest to myself, and then what was the third one? Oh, how I'm going to inspire myself, how I'm going to inspire myself. I lost the fourth one. Okay, I'll listen to that at the end of the podcast because that seems important. Okay, let's keep going. What techniques have worked well for you when you've achieved focus in the past? Absolutely Pomodoro technique. If you know crisis cleaning from Fly Lady, that has been very helpful to me. Turning on rainy mood, putting on headphones, turning off the lights, and knuckling down on a task, often at a specific time of day, often as part of a routine, and often as a blitz of effort leading to a harsh deadline. And I would say having a creative method that I want to use, like, ooh, what if I approach this thing like this? How would it be? Or, ooh, what if I explore this idea? Or, ooh, how can I mash up this person's technique with this person's technique and come up with something different with interesting qualities? So those help me to achieve focus. The next prompt is, imagine that you have woken up in the future 5 years from now and you have used those techniques to build a fantastic framework for nurturing focus. What does that future look like? Describe this future as if you are living it right now. Drop into the present tense and include all 5 of your senses. Okay. It's 5 years from now, so I'll be 43. I am 43. I have more gray hair and a few more lines in my face. But when I open my eyes and I see the light filtering into the room, I slip out of bed and my body feels loose and comfortable and well oiled. It feels like solid, springy muscle that is resilient, and my skin is soft and I feel comfortable in it. And I slip immediately into my upon waking original strength routine. I'm doing some crawling and some rocking and some rolling around on the floor and some Supermans and some speed skis. And I'm just sort of working my way through the house as I do these motions and warming up any muscles that were tense. And I feel strong, and I feel flexible, and I feel no pain in my knees because I've taken care to build up strength in my glutes and my quads. And finally I stand up and I feel the bottoms of my bare feet on the carpet, and then the smoothness of the hardwood floor as I walk into my kitchen and I pour coffee. And while the coffee is brewing, I sit cross-legged on the wooden floor. I haven't turned the light on yet, so I can see just the light of the rising sun pouring in through the windows. And I close my eyes and see gray behind the lids and fold my hands and practice a mindful breathing exercise and get into a state of meditation, which ends when the coffee beeps to announce that it's ready. And I put a little bit of cream in my coffee, and I go to the table, and from my office supply cabinet, I pull out some paper, and I begin an hour-long think. And I sit and I let my mind drift, and I remember my chosen values, and when cogent thoughts come to me, I jot them down, and let my brain just percolate and bubble and coalesce disparate ideas into smoothly formed, important thoughts. And at the end of my hour, I put a bunch of things in order, as a to-do list. And just as I do that, my son comes out of his bedroom and we prepare him for school and we eat our breakfasts and we hang out and we have lovely quality time, and then we walk to the school. I say hi to my friends at the school. I come back home walking with a focus that I have learned to bring to the sounds around me, particularly to the sounds of birds. And I listen to the birds, and that drops me into a state of mindfulness and calm and peace as I return home. And when I return home, I have a day that is full of space for creative work, but also full of, well, not full of, but includes meaningful appointments with my clients. And I am able to diminish the distractions in the room by putting a please don't knock sign on my front door, by telling people not to call, or by turning off the ringer on my cell phone, and having placed the appointments in my work in such a time during the day that nobody comes home. And I just parfait my day. Focus, appointment, focus, appointment. In my creative time, I'm focused on admin or generating new material, and in my appointments, I'm purely focused on the other person, helping them to figure out how to bring life to their music, or how to shape the life that they would best like to live. In the evening, my family members all come home. I bring home my son from school, and we spend time together, and somebody makes a lovely dinner, and I'm able to put my work away because I know I've focused well, that things are handled administratively, that I've generated some new work, that I've operated according to my hour-long think to-do list, which I think is going to be helpful. And we wind down after having maybe had beverages with each other and shown each other our games, or maybe having played a card game. And when the light fades, we tuck each other into bed, and I crawl into bed and snuggle into my pillow, and I say good night. Okay. Now I just woke up my eyes, opened my eyes, and I have to find my spot on the page. Oh, okay. It says, how can you design the ideal future that is created by your focus by using the techniques that worked for you before? Well, in that day I just described, I suppose when I was working on administrative tasks, I could Pomodoro that, because doing a bit of a speedy thing in a certain amount of time, like if you've done NaNoWriMo, like word sprints, puts me in a state of flow. And even if the admin is tedious or not that interesting, putting in that hit of speed makes it exciting. It becomes like a game. So either by saying, I'm gonna Pomodoro method this admin until it's done is a fun game, or I could say, I bet you I can answer 10 emails in 5 minutes. Can I set a timer? Let's go. Boom, 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 boom. And when I do creative work, I could put in a creative constraint like, do this thing, but do it backwards. Or do this thing, but explain only half as much as you usually do. Or do this thing, but explain twice as much. Or do this thing, but do it with your non-dominant hand. Or do this thing, but try to present it upside down. Or do this thing so it works if you do it both forward and backwards. Something like that. So I would say Pomodoro, sprinting games, and creative constraints really work for my focus, as well as that power of suggestion, that inspiration that I get from videos and books. So I could weave in those games into my life. For example, by saying, I know where my anchors are during the school year, and I'm going to make a list of the things that really help me focus. And every time I sit down to do something, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna check all my email and process it to get to inbox 0. And I'm gonna try to do that backwards. Or I'm gonna try to do that in 7 minutes, or whatever it is. Or if I'm like, I'm gonna design a new structure for my clients, I could say, I'm gonna do this, but I'm going to create this in such a way that it is useful both in an analytical way and in an intuitive way. Or I'm going to create a structure such that you could read it right side up, but if you flip it upside down, there's another structure there that you could use it. I don't know, something like that. So if I carve out my anchors, and then start the project with a hit of suggestion / inspiration followed by a constraint or a game, I would be almost unstoppable. I'm going to write that down. I think this is find anchors, decide what I want to suggest to myself, how I'm going to inspire myself, and add a creative constraint. That honestly sounds amazing, and now I want to try it right now. This is fun. I'm going to write a little note how I work. So, I think I can create that ideal future if I use that technique to be focused. All right. How can you begin to implement that future using small and slow solutions? Okay, what I could do is tonight, I could think about what my day tomorrow will look like. Tomorrow for me will be a Sunday, and I have nothing planned, except I know that 5:30 or thereabouts is date night. So I could say something like, before date night, that's an anchor, I will do this action. Okay, so what am I going to do tomorrow right before date night? Before date night, I am going to create 10 auto posts for the Reflective Journaling Facebook community. Okay, so the anchor is before date night, and how am I going to decide what I want to suggest to myself? I'm suggesting 10 auto prompts, right? So that's the text suggestion slash task that I have. 10 auto prompts for RJFB, that's Reflective Journaling Facebook group. And then How am I going to inspire myself? How inspire? I could listen to a book on Scribed. Listen to a book on Scribed. And what creative constraint am I going to use? I'm going to say use only Canva and Facebook, and prompts must be 20 words or fewer. Dang, that actually sounds kind of fun. All right, I like this. Who knew this might actually be really useful? How can I sustain, the next prompt is, how can you sustain your desired future? You know, I think in a way this might be self-propelling just because it's pleasant and it'll make me feel smart and it'll make me feel productive. And I figured out that feeling productive is, for me, one of the best freaking feelings in the world. So hopefully this will kind of be a spiraling forward as productivity builds on productivity without becoming tedious or overwhelming. And I can sustain it by reminding myself that done is better than good, that I don't need to be artificially structured or consistent because I know I'm more of a creative sprinter, and just try to keep the general object of my attentions on reflective journaling and my family, and allow for deviations sort of within that, and be okay with being a chameleon and a shapeshifter based on my interests at the time. Next prompt, what situations cause you overwhelm, burnout, shame, or despair? Embarrassment. For example, if I don't get back to an email right away, I get embarrassed, and then I don't get back to the email, and it hangs over me, and then I become so embarrassed that I often won't talk to the person who sent me the email, and then the relationship starts to get all muddled, and I really get embarrassed by things like that, and that overwhelms me. Obviously, just having too much to do overwhelms me. Interestingly, having too much social contact in a day just wipes me out. I'm done. I need to sleep. I need to eat. I need to be alone. What causes me shame? Letting people who are counting on me down or causing them emotional or physical pain. That just guts me. Oh gosh, it guts me. It's awful. Or despair. What causes me despair? Self-loathing causes me despair. Focusing too much on the news causes me despair. Having a kind of long series of failures will really cause me despair. So, how can I prevent them in this case? Well, with my focusing techniques, I can kind of use that focus to prevent being embarrassed by not returning emails, by turning like my focus to the admin and just banging out those emails and getting those little tasks done so they're off my plate. Obviously, I can avoid burnout by scheduling less, promising less, keeping spaciousness in my calendar for my generative work and my admin tasks and my family. Shame. Well, we mentioned that's letting other people down, that's hurting them physically or emotionally. So hurting people physically or emotionally just is all about being compassionate to them, being compassionate to myself, and holding being a certain level of careful with people, trying to be mindful of where they're at and aware that they may be concealing internal pain, or not being too aggressively playful with them and their bodies, for example, with pillow fights or tickling. Letting people down, I suppose I can only promise things that I feel I can do honestly. Like, yes, I have time for that. Yes, that's in line with my values. Yes, it would be a pleasure. And if it doesn't meet all three of those things, don't promise that. And what is the most healthy perspective you could take as you address this? Well, I think knowing that this will be such an exciting driver for me, this technique of anchor, suggest, inspire, and constrain. Is that an acronym? ASH, ASHC. Ashk. I gotta ask you a question. Not really. Don't get overexcited. Don't begin promising the world. Don't take on too much responsibility. Focus all that inspired energy and ability to focus at tasks that are sustainable, or tasks that I can knock out quickly and move on from. Well, that was focus. So let's move on to flow. And here is a quote that I put under flow. If you've ever heard someone describe a time when their performance excelled and they used the term being in the zone, what they're describing is an experience of flow. It occurs when your skill level and the challenge at hand are equal. And that is from positivepsychologyprogram.com/me-hi-cheek-sent-me-hi-father-of-flow/. That's positivepsychology-program.com/me-hi-cheek-sent-me-hi-father-of-flow/. Take a balcony level view of how flow exists in your life, as if you are a scientist observing a situation. Describe what you see when you think of how you best accomplish flow and how you have been doing with flow lately. So for me, there are two ways in which I can achieve a state of flow. One is by working at the very edge of my ability, trying something new and difficult but not unreachable, and I just get gripped by that. It sucks me in, and I'm just totally tunnel vision on whatever that may be. And this can be something cerebral, like a new form of narrative structure for a writing project, or it might be something housework related, like, can I wash these dishes in 4 minutes? Well, or can I teach this student 3 weeks of material in half an hour to accommodate a scheduling thing and make it stick and make it vibrant and make it worthwhile teaching, stuff like that. So that's when I'm I said there were two ways. The other way is by, like, when I'm driving or playing a video game, if I start thinking about all the scenes of a movie in order, and just watching the movie in my mind as well as I can, the drive flies by, or I suddenly get the highest score I've ever gotten on the video game. And I suppose I could apply that to some of the more mindless tasks, like if I need to go out and trim a bunch of weeds in the garden, or if I need to sort and fold a lot of laundry, or if there's a mountain of dishes and I've just got to get it all done, or if it's time to just dust all the things. I don't know. I never dust. I don't know why I brought that up as an example, but you get the point. So which of your behaviors are contributing to excellent levels of flow? Well, huh. I mean, I already mentioned that I haven't been doing much work lately. I would say I love working under time constraints. Yes, I do love it. I was going to say, let me rephrase. No, I mean it. Like, for example, when I know that the house cleaners are coming in 20 minutes and the house is in wreck and they won't possibly be able to reach any of the surfaces so they can clean them, with like cleansers and sponges and towels and things, that like a 20-minute blitz of hyper efficiency as I just triage the heck out of things and clear all the counters and get the floors clear and make the little table surfaces clear, and I just make everything go away into where they belong. And it's not about making things clear, like I'll leave the sink full of icky gunk and I won't sweep or any of that because that's their job because I hired them. But I'll make sure that all the shoes are under the shoe table and that all the paper is in the drawer and all the recycling is taken out to the bins, etc. And I love it because having that sort of incentive will get me to do shit in 20 minutes that I normally take like 3 hours to do. And I do it well. So that is awesome. So I love working under time constraints. And as I've mentioned, any kind of creative constraint really gets me going. And then trying to create a product, such as a short story, and then using two methods that are different from each other. Like, what if I wrote a story using permaculture principles as its structure, and wove that structure in with the structure of Kisho Tenketsu. Kisho Tenketsu? I think I said that right. So, like, that kind of weird synthesizing, like, what would this look like? That puts me into a state of flow as well. How have I been doing with flow lately? I haven't been. Not in the last week or so. But before that, I was really flowing hard as I created a bunch of podcast episodes, as I wrote a bunch of new structures for reflective journaling, as I did a bunch of admin. That was great. So it says, which of your behaviors are contributing to excellent levels of flow? Which of my behaviors are contributing? I suppose not being intimidated. Like right now I'm approaching tasks with a sort of bravery. I'm not worried about whether or not they'll fail, because I believe that as long as I conduct my tasks according to my values, I'm being the person I want to be, and failure is just compost that makes the garden of my life richer. Was that cheesy? I don't know. I believe it. So maybe cheesy but true. And the seeds I plant with my behaviors may or may not grow. And all I'm doing is planting seeds and preparing soil in terms of this metaphor, garden metaphor for growing up my life. So I suppose the behavior of my attitude, my willingness to fail, my willingness to see what happens, my willingness to keep trying little things to see what works for me in the context of my life, and kind of my self-knowledge at this point. Like, I know I'm not going to be I'm not going to measure things. I'm not going to use a lot of data to tweak my project. I'm not going to do a lot of like traditional advertising, like knowing what I'm not, and knowing what I'm good at. I'm good at creativity and synthesis and connecting to people. That's helpful for me as I approach levels of flow, because I'm aiming myself at the things I do well. So what am I not doing that contributes to that excellence? Oh, well, I kind of already addressed this. I'm avoiding behaviors that I know don't work for me. I'm not trying to imitate somebody else. I'm not comparing myself against other coaches or other journaling gurus, because as far as I can tell, this is a new thing. And also, it's not healthy to compare yourself to other people. All right, let's flip that around. Which of your behaviors are contributing to problems with your flow? Well, I haven't been giving myself specific challenges. I've been more like, oh, I did an hour-long think. Let's do these things and as many things as we can. We'll get them done, and then we'll let it go. And that's actually been working really well. And I might not need to like gild that lily, but I think it would be better to give myself suggestions. So not giving myself creative constraints and suggestions in that way. I've also been, spending a lot of time not working, which is mixed because it's restorative, but it's not helping me figure out my anchors. Not figuring out anchors is a whole thing. And what behaviors am I not doing, and how does that non-action contribute to problems with my flow? I'm not attempting flow. I think sometimes I approach flow as if it's like happiness and you can't just create it. But I think flow is something that can be cultivated. Like, you can create a solid opportunity for flow to exist. And if I give myself an ash key, an anchor, a suggestion, an inspiration, and a constraint, I can probably snap into flow like bang, like that. And what techniques have worked well for you when you've achieved flow in the past? I already described that. But again, imagining movies while doing brainless work and doing things under constraints or with a jolt of inspiration from a suggestion. So, imagine that you have woken up in the future 5 years from now, and you have used those techniques to flow often and well and built the future of your dreams. What does that future look like? Describe this future as if you were living it right now. Drop into the present tense and include all 5 of your senses. I wake up and I'm 43, and the house smells like vanilla and orange zest. And when I walk into the kitchen, I see my son, and he is making breakfast. He's 11 now. The coffee has brewed and is bitter and sweet in my mouth, and he kisses me on the cheek and puts on his backpack, there's a knock at the door, and his friend is there to walk him to school. And as he leaves the house, he says, "I'm proud of you, Mom." And I say, "I'm proud of you too, honey." And I sit down at the table with my coffee, and I run myself through an ASHC, is that what we're going to say? An anchor, suggestion, inspiration, and constraint. And I get to work with the breakfast that my son made for me at my side. And I spend a wonderful day in this state of flow, uninterrupted. Perhaps this is a day I've carved out for myself to be in a state of flow, and I'll see clients on other days. And I take frequent breaks to rest and to stretch out and to hydrate and to eat. But at the end of the day, I have wrapped up some projects and I have launched other projects, and I am glowing with a sense of achievement and feeling awesome about the possibilities ahead. And while we're at it, I've just been racking up income the whole time. Like money's just pouring into my PayPal account, and I'm, among other things, planning a trip to Argentina. Okay, that was fun. Did I use all 5 of my senses? I hear, no, I think I did. I hope. How can you design your ideal future forged through flow by using the techniques that worked for you before? I think scheduling time to be in flow, like I did in the imaginary scenario I just described. Like, I schedule this day to be in a state of flow. No clients, no social visits, just me and my ASHC and my projects. That sounds amazing. And by using the ASHC and by making it a habit to use it and letting that flow just carry me forward in my career. How can you begin to implement that future using slow and small solutions? Well, I think I will tomorrow when I make those auto posts before date night. I think maybe pinning a note to my wall that says, "Remember ASHC," setting phone reminders, putting it on my calendar, telling my friends about it, teaching it to my clients, turning it into a reflective journaling resource that I come across every now and then. I don't think it'll ever need to be grand. I think instead the trick will be keeping these states of flow manageable and not overburdening myself. How can you sustain your desired future? One little state of flow at a time, and putting in it like a series of checks and balances, like How to ADHD has a resource that's like, how do I know if I should do the thing? I have that document saved somewhere. I could, before I take on something new, I could go through that and see if I really have the time or the bandwidth to take it on. Or maybe if I feel like taking on a project, I can check in with my housemates and say, do you think this is a good idea? Would this be too time expensive for you? Like, would you miss me if I did this? Yeah, checks and balances. Which situations cause you overwhelm, burnout, shame, or despair? I covered that. I'm not going to do that again. How can I prevent them in this case? By not overwhelming myself. And what is the most healthy perspective you could take as you address this? I know that doing this will make me feel like a productive genius. And I need to take care that doesn't topple over into arrogance, ego, clinging, and being attached to outcomes and getting overpiled with commitments and tasks. Okay. Freedom. Take a balcony level of how freedom exists in your life. I found a typo. I'm going to fix it. Freedom. Oh, freedom. As if you are a scientist observing a situation, describe what you see when you think of how you best accomplish freedom and how you have been doing with freedom lately. I am free to spend my days how I like when my son is at school. I can take on clients or not take on clients. I have the use of a car. I have some spending money. I can do whatever I want to do. I have great opportunities for freedom. The one constraint I have on my freedom is that my son is very young and he needs someone to watch him at all times, so he doesn't get hurt or feel lonely to an extreme extent. So if I'm going to be away from him, I need to make sure that someone has committed to watch over him. And I have a lot of support, but that's a little extra obstacle to my freedom. I get very stuck in my routines. My friend Lainey was just describing to me samskara, which she described as the ox pulling the cart in the muddy ground and the trenches getting deeper, the grooves getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And the idea is that the deeper the groove, the harder it is to climb out. I basically don't leave my house unless I'm forced to or somebody walks me to a car and puts me in it. I think it would be really good if I were to just take myself out of my house and go experience a bit more of the world. I love solitude so much, and I love access to all of my creative tools so much, and I like comfort so much that I'm afraid I'm missing out on a lot of the tapestry of experiences in life and just staying comfortably cocooned in my comfort zone. And I am guessing that there are huge rewards to be gained by going outside. Which of your behaviors are contributing to excellent moments of freedom? Walking my son to school is a thing that gets me out of the house regularly. And, there are like 4 different routes I can take to get there. And sometimes I can drive my car and sit in the car with a soda and an audiobook, and sometimes I can walk via the park and sit on the bench under a tree, or sometimes I can take the shortcut, or sometimes I can take the long way. And just those little acts of saying, do I want to take a beverage with me? Do I want to listen to music or an audiobook? Do I want to go alone and practice, do I want to go without a device and practice mindfulness? Like, how do I want to do this? What would work best for the weather and how I'm feeling, and etc. So that's a little path I've made that is an excellent behavior that contributes to really liberating moments of freedom. What am I not doing that contributes to that excellence? Well, I'm not being super rigid about which route I'll take to get to the school. I'm not leaving late, so I'm rushing. I'm not wearing stupid heels, so it hurts to walk around. Let's flip that around. Which of your behaviors are contributing to problems with your freedom? Not leaving the house. I suppose my habit of staying in, and my behavior of not driving unless forced. I really hate to drive. I find that it feels dangerous and uncomfortable, and I always feel like I'm a whiskers breadth away from getting honked at or bullied on the road or actually physically hurt, or that I'll do damage to something expensive, or it's terrifying to me. So I think that reluctance to drive and that reluctance to leave the house when it's hot or a little rainy, or a little like the weather's threatening a little storm, or I just don't feel like it because there's something good on TV. Yeah, that's a problem. And which behaviors are you not doing, and how does that non-action contribute to problems with your freedom? I'm not making plans. I'm not saying, you know what, on Tuesday I'm going to drop Sam off at school, and then I'm going to go to a coffee shop, and I'm going to work from the coffee shop, and then I'm going to meet someone for lunch. I'm not doing that kind of stuff. I'm just going with the default, so I'm not stepping out to make little plans, even baby steps of plans, and I just slip into my regular comfortable routine. What techniques have worked well for you when you felt free in the past? Well, gosh, I remember being 18 and 19 years old, and I didn't live with my parents, and I didn't have a car, so I just walked everywhere. I didn't have much money at all. I was often like counting the number of quarters I had so I could see if I could buy something off a dollar menu, right? But all that walking, I saw so many things and felt so many sensory sensations and felt really healthy in my body. And that sense of like having a terrain, like I can walk from this street all the way across town to this street, and it's going to take me a while, but I'm so used to it. I mean, this is before I even dreamed of having a cell phone, right? Like, they barely existed at that time. So I felt very free when I was walking. I felt like I was getting somewhere on my own terms and under my own power. I often feel very free when I'm in the grocery store, Mike. I have choices about how much to spend and what I should buy. And I wonder if that's a false trap, because how free are you really in a grocery store? But nonetheless, I have felt very free when I'm shopping. Yeah, I think shopping really brings out the part of me that's like, I'm in control of the situation, I have decisions to make, and I'm going to rely on my own methods. How interesting is that? I have never thought of that before. And I feel very free when I'm being of service to someone else, because it's not about me. And I just feel like it's okay to offer my strengths to that situation as long as those strengths are in service to them and their vision and their discernment and their empowerment. So imagine that you have woken up in the future in 5 years and that you have used these techniques of freedom to build a marvelous future that feels very free. What does that future look like? Describe this future as if you were living it right now. Drop into the present tense and include all 5 of your senses. Well, I wake up. I'm 43. I climb out of the wrong side of the bed just for fun. I pull on a pair of mismatched socks and they smell like dryer sheets. And I feel the smooth stucco of the walls as I trace my hand along the hallway as I move into my living room, which is dim, and I see shadows playing on the walls, and my coffee pot, which was pre-programmed the night before, is glowing a little orange light, and I can smell the richness of the brew, and I take my coffee black. And then I sit on the couch in my TV room and I make a plan for what I'm going to do that day. And I know that my budget for the day is $100. And I text her friend and I say, wake up. Today we're going to Chinatown. And after I get my son off to school, my friend and I meet each other at the bus stop and we go to BART and then we go to Chinatown. And Chinatown is quiet. And there's a sort of mist that's almost rain, and you can smell petrichor, and we buy a funky looking kind of fish that we've never seen before, and we buy these beautiful shawls made out of silk, and we go and get these $20 foot massages, and we eat bowls of hot and sour soup with rice. And then as the day grows into the fullness of afternoon and the mist burns off, we head back on the train and back on the bus. And my son has walked home from school with a friend, and I walk into the house and I make milk and cookies, and then I go take a nap. And then I wake up and my husband has made dinner, and it's been a glorious day. Okay. That was fun. How can you design your ideal future, which is full of freedom, by using the techniques that worked for you before? I could take up the practice of walking to places. I could make a point of calling people or texting them and inviting them to do something with me, perhaps spontaneously on the day of, or perhaps a bit in advance so they can make plans. I can make it a rule that once a week I drive somewhere new and go somewhere I've never been before. Maybe a little restaurant, or maybe a playground, or maybe a different library or bookstore, something like that. And how can you begin to implement that future using small and slow solutions? Schedule a day each week when I will text a friend and ask them if they would like to design a little adventure out. Okay, I'm going to write that down. Designate a day. Designate a day when you will text a friend and ask if they'd like to design a little adventure out. Oh my gosh, that could be so much fun. All right. It reminds me of times when I felt really free, which is when I said, I did this for my mom and for my sister on separate occasions, and I said, come and see me. I'm going to take you out on a surprise journey. I'm not going to tell you what we're doing, but bring your camera. And for example, with my sister, I think we met up in Walnut Creek, and we went to an awesome restaurant, and then we went here, and we went there, and we took pictures, and we made notes and journals. And at the end of the excursion, we had all these photos taped into journals with captions of what we did. And during those trips, I felt incredibly powerful and like it was an exciting adventure, and they were so happy to go with me on those adventures. So let me add that. Photojournals. Photojournals. That might not be a baby step kind of thing, but maybe so. That seems a little ambitious once you tack in the photojournals, but whatever. How can you sustain your desired future? I would say keep expanding the terrain. Keep pushing a little forward with the driving. Keep asking people to do wacky things, which will involve being creative about doing things that are fun. And what is the most healthy perspective you could take as you address this? It's fun to go on adventures. And it's okay to balance that adventure with solitude, but you've got to occasionally break the cycle of samskara and do something new. Oh, we just did all the questions for focus, flow, and freedom. Now there's just a little bit of wrap up. There are 3 questions, and it says, what was your big takeaway today? 1, Ash C. Anchors suggest how inspire and constraint as a way for achieving both focus and flow. And hit up my friends and ask them to design adventures with me. How would I like to bring that into my life this week? Well, tomorrow I'm going to do the auto posts before date night. And is there anything else that I want to make a note of? My voice is thrashed because that was a lot of talking, but I feel really good. I feel like designing adventures with friends and practicing Ashsea could be literally life-changing in a super pleasant way, and I am into it. Thank you for listening. I hope you experience peace during the second Friday in December, and I will see you in the next episode.